This is First Coast Math Clinic, and this video is on solving equations. So the goal of this video is to solve and check equations. I'm going to go through a wide variety of equations in this video. So let's start with just the types of equations we're going to cover. So we're going to start with addition and subtraction equations. So we're going to look at equations like -4 plus x equals 9, 12 equals y plus 3. Then we're going to get into multiplication and division equations. So -2x equals -12, 11 equals y over 4, and then with a fractional coefficient 2/3 x equals 8. So we're going to solve equations like this. Then we're going to get the multi-step equations. So we'll work with equations like -5x plus 4 equals 9, 21 minus 3x equals 4x, and 2x minus 4 equals 5x plus 5. So these are the equations we're going to be solving for addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and multi-step equations. Then we're going to get into equations with grouping symbols and like terms, starting with grouping symbols. So we'll get into 2 times the quantity x plus 3 equals 3 times the quantity 2x plus 8. And then we'll work with like terms. So 4x plus 7 minus 8x equals 5x minus 8. Minus 3x plus 5, we'll solve that. And then we'll put our like terms and grouping symbols together. So we've got -2 times the quantity 3x plus 1 minus 5 equals 1 minus 4 times the quantity x plus 1. And the last topic we're going to cover in this video is going to be checking solutions to equations. And as I go through this is going to be a fairly long video, and I'm just going to work on just solving these equations. If you want a more detailed explanation on how to solve these equations, I'll post links to individual videos on addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, multi-step equations, grouping symbols, like terms, and checking. So I'll post the links as I'm going through these, okay? All right, let's get into these equations. Starting with addition and subtraction. So we know we want to get the x by itself, the variable by itself. So we have to use our inverse operation, reading our equation left to right. All right, we've got a minus sign on that 4. We're subtracting the 4. So I want to add 4 and add 4. -4 plus 4 gives us 0. So those 4's cancel out. And I get x equals 13. And for number 2, I've got y plus 3. I'm adding the 3, so my inverse operation to addition is going to be subtracting. Subtract 3 from the right and the left. Whatever I do to the right side, I have to do to the left. 3 minus 3 is 0. So I get y equals 9. All right, and usually I do a check here. I'm going to hold off on the check until the last part of this video, just so I can get through a number of equations actually getting the solution. And we'll hold off on the check until the end. All right, so now our multiplication and division. So we've got, for number 3, -2x equals -12. So we're multiplying x times -2. So I've got to undo that multiplication and divide and divide. So I'm going to divide by -2 and divide by -2. -2 divided by -2 is 1 and 1. And since I'm multiplying and dividing by 1, I don't need to write in the 1. So I'm just going to get x equals, and then -12 divided by -2, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Now for number 4, I have 11 equals y over 4, y divided by 4. So I'm dividing by 4. How do I undo dividing by 4? I'm going to multiply by 4 on the right and multiply by 4 on the left, right? If we want to make that multiplication a little bit easier on the right, I could put that 4 over 1 and then just multiply across and across, numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So on the left, we get 44 equals 4y over 4. 4 times 1 is 4. Y times 4 is 4y. And then we could just divide. 4 divided by 4, because any fraction is division, is 1 and 1. And we're left with 44 equals y. So basically what we're doing here is dividing out those 4's, and we're left with 1 and 1, so we just keep that y. So number 5, we've got 2/3 x equals 8. And so our coefficient now, the number in front of x is a fraction 2/3, and there's 2 different ways we could do this. So we're multiplying x times a fraction 2/3. So to undo our multiplication, we can divide by 2/3 and divide by 2/3. So we're dividing 2/3 by 2/3. So our division, 2/3 divided by 2/3, just gives us 1 and 1, and we're left with x equals. So now we've got 8 divided by 2/3, so we can write this horizontally, 8 divided by 2/3, and I'll put that 8/1. Okay, or there's another way that we could do this. I'm going to hold up here and show you the other way that we could do this. So if we have 2/3 x equals 8, all right? So if I don't want to divide by this, what I could do is say, okay, well, what am I doing with the 2? What am I doing with the 3 in particular, right? This 3 is in my denominator, okay? If the 3 is in the denominator, what am I doing with it? I'm dividing by the 3. So how do I undo dividing by 3? I multiply by it. So I'm going to multiply by the 3 in particular and multiply by the 3, okay? Well, what about that 2? 2 is in the numerator, and since it's in the numerator, I'm multiplying 2 and x together. Well, how do I undo multiplying? I undo multiplying by dividing. So I'm going to put that 2 under the 3 and divide by it, and divide by it. Right? So I multiplied both sides by the reciprocal of 2/3, 3/2, right? So I multiplied by the reciprocal of 2/3, 3/2, right? So look at what happens on the left side here. 3 times 2 is 6, 2 times 3 is 6, so I get 6/6x equals, and I'm just going to do this right side, then I'll come back to this first example that I worked with. And if I multiply this out, 8 times 3, 1 times 2. 8 times 3 is 24, 1 times 2 is 2. 6 divided by 6 is 1 and 1, so I don't need to write the 1s, I get to write x. 24 divided by 2 is 12, so our answer should be 12. Okay? Well, let's say we didn't do that, we just divided by 2/3 and 2/3. Well, how do we divide fractions? We want to change our division to multiplication. So I keep that first value, 8/1. I change the division to multiplication, and I take the reciprocal of the value, the fraction I'm dividing by. So 2/3 becomes 3/2. So I get the same thing that we had up here, right? So now we're just going to multiply straight across. 8 times 3 is 24. 1 times 2 is 2, and 24 divided by 2 is 12, so we get x equals 12. So two different ways to get the same answer, x equals 12 and x equals 12. We can either divide by our fraction, divide by 2/3 and divide by 2/3, or we can multiply by the reciprocal and multiply by the reciprocal, but we were basically doing the same thing both ways, okay? All right, let's move on to multi-step equations. So for our multi-step equations number 6, we've got -5x plus 4 equals 9. So we want to combine our like terms across the equal sign. So our like terms are going to be the 4 and the 9. So let's subtract 4 and subtract 4. So I'm adding 4, I want to undo adding 4 and subtract it from both sides. So I get -5x equals 5. So now I'm multiplying -5x, -5 times x. So let's undo multiplying and divide by -5. Divide by -5. -5 divided by -5 is 1 and 1. So I get x equals 5 divided by -5. Multiplying or dividing opposite signs gives us a negative. And we get -1 here. Now number 7, our like terms are going to be the 3x and the 4. I'm subtracting 3x, the sign of the 3x is minus, right? So to undo subtracting, I have to add. So I'm going to add 3x and add 3x. So I get 21. -3x plus +3x, that's going to give us 0 and basically cancel each other out. 4x plus 3x gives us 7x. Now let's undo the multiplication and divide by 7. Divide by 7. 21 divided by 7 is 3, so we get x equals 3. And for number 8, 2x minus 4 equals 5x plus 5. So our like terms, let's start with 2x and 5x. So I'm going to move the 2x to the right. So let's subtract 2x. Remember, I'm reading this left to right. So since there's no minus sign to the left of that 2x, it's going to be positive. So I have to undo adding and subtract 2x. Subtract 2x. 2x minus 2x is 0. Bring down the negative 4. 5x minus 2x is 3x plus 5. Now, I want to get the x by itself, so I have to move that 5 to the left. So to do that, I'm going to subtract 5. Subtract 5. 5 minus 5 is 0, so that goes away. Negative 4 minus 5, so I have negative 4 minus 5. I use my subtraction rule. Keep, change, so negative 4. Subtraction becomes addition. Positive 5 becomes negative 5. And this gives me negative 9. So negative 9 equals 3x. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1 and 1. And negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3. All right, let's get into our examples with like terms and grouping symbols. All right, so for number 9, we've got 2 times the quantity x plus 3 equals 3 times the quantity 2x minus 2. I just changed this last value to minus 2 just so it works out a little bit cleaner, but it's pretty much the same quantity, or same topic working with grouping symbols. So the first thing we want to do is using the distributive property. Let's multiply the 2 and the 3 in the parentheses, right? So 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 2x is 6x. 3 times minus 2 or negative 2 is minus 6 or negative 6. Now let's combine our like terms. I want to move the 2x to the right. So let's subtract 2x. So minus 2x minus 2x. So we get 6 equals 4x minus 6. Let's move this 6 to the left. So let's add 6, add 6. So the 6's cancel out. Negative 6 plus positive 6 is 0. So we'll get 12 equals 4x. Now let's get that x by itself. Divide by 4. Divide by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1 and 1. We don't need the 1s. So we'll get x equals 3 as our answer. So for number 10, we've got 4x plus 9 minus 8x equals 5x minus 8 minus 3x plus 5. So we don't have any grouping symbols here, but we have a bunch of like terms that we need to combine. So identifying our like terms, we've got 4x and minus 8x on the left side. On the right side, we've got 5x and minus 3x and minus 8 and plus 5. So I'm including the sign with the terms. So we can rewrite this grouping our terms together. 4x minus 8x plus 9 equals 5x minus 3x minus 8 plus 5. So now 4x minus 8x gives us negative 4x plus 9. 5x minus 3x gives us 2x, and negative 8 plus 5 gives us negative 3. Now let's combine our like terms across the equal sign. So I'm subtracting 4x. Let's add 4x. Add 4x. 4x's cancel out. So we get 9 equals 6x minus 3. Let's add 3, add 3. Negative 3 plus positive 3 gives us 0. So we get 12 equals 6x, then divide by 6. Divide by 6, 6 divided by 6 is 1 and 1. And then 12 divided by 6 is just going to give us 2 equals x. So x is going to be 2 here. All right, last example, number 11, we're combining grouping symbols with like terms. So we've got negative 2 times the quantity 3x plus 1 minus 5 equals 1 minus 4 times the quantity x plus 1. So let's get rid of our parentheses and work with our grouping symbols first. So I'm going to distribute the negative 2 in the parentheses, and I've got to distribute the negative 4. So we've got to keep the sign with our terms, right? So multiply negative 2 and multiply negative 4. So negative 2 times 3x gives me negative 6x. Negative 2 times 1 gives me negative 2 minus 5. I'm going to bring down that 1, right, because I've got to do multiplication before I do subtraction. Negative 4 times x gives me negative 4x. Negative 4 times 1 gives me negative 4. My like terms on the left side are right next to each other. Negative 2 minus 5. So negative 2 minus 5 is negative 7. My like terms on the right side are going to be the 1 and the minus 4. So 1 minus 4 is going to give us negative 3. One minus 4 is negative 3. So we get negative 6x minus 7 equals negative 3 minus 4x. Now let's combine our like terms. So I want to bring the negative 6x from the left side to the right. So let's add 6x, add 6x. So negative 6x plus positive 6x cancel out. So I've got negative 7 equals negative 3. Negative 4x plus 6x gives me positive 2x. Now let's bring this negative 3 to the left. So I'm going to add 3, add 3. Negative 3 plus positive 3 cancel out. Negative 7 plus 3 is negative 4 equals 2x. So I'll do the rest up here. Negative 4 equals 2x. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1 and 1. So I get x equals negative 2 as my answer. Okay. All right, so those examples were, we did addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. We did an example with a fractional coefficient. We did 3 multi-step equations, and then we did 3 equations with, or equation with grouping symbols, an equation with like terms, then an equation that combines grouping symbols and like terms. So let's do 2 examples that involve checking our equations and double checking our solutions. So let's do 2 examples that involve checking our answers. So let's do our check for number 8. So for number 8, our solution was x equals negative 3, our original equation. 2x minus 4 equals 5x plus 5. So what is our check going to look like for this? So when we're checking our equation, all right, we're going to take our solution, that negative 3, and we want to put it back into our original equation, back into the variables. So I'm going to take that negative 3, I'm going to put it back in for x. So I'm going to have 2 times negative 3 minus 4 equals 5 times negative 3 plus 5. And if our solution is correct, the left side of the equation, so everything that's on this side, whatever I get on this side, should equal everything that's on this side. Okay, so let's see if that's true. So 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Minus 4, negative 6 minus 4, we could use our subtraction rule. This becomes negative 6 plus negative 4. Negative 6 plus negative 4 gives us negative 10. All right, so left side is negative 10. On the right side, 5 times negative 3 is negative 15, plus negative 5, negative 15 plus negative 5. I'm adding two numbers of opposite signs, so I want the difference. Well, what's the difference between 15 and 5? Difference is 10. I want to take the side of the number with the larger absolute value. That's going to be this 15, so that's going to become negative, and I get negative 10 equals negative 10, so my answer checks. So my answer's got to be x equals negative 3. Let's do another check. So for number 9, our equation 2 times the quantity x plus 3 equals 3 times the quantity 2x minus 2. Our solution is x equals 3. So for our check, let's take that 3, put it in for x. So let's rewrite our equation. 2 times 3 plus 3 equals 3 times 2 times 3 minus 2. So let's simplify in our parentheses. 3 plus 3 is 6 equals 3, and then in our parentheses, let's do order of operations. 2 times 3 is 6. So I'll do that down here. 6 minus 2. 6 minus 2 is 4, so I'll get 3 times 4. So on the left side, I've got 2 times 6. On the right side, I've got 3 times 4. Well, 2 times 6 we know is 12, and 3 times 4 we know is 12. So our left side and our right side are equal. Our solution checks. Our answer has to be x equals 3. Let's do one more check here. All right, so for number 10, we've got 4x plus 9 minus 8x equals 5x minus 8 minus 3x plus 5, and our solution is x equals 2. So I wanted to check this one because there's a bunch of different places to put that x in on each side. So if x is 2, we could put the 2 in here, 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 and here, right? So let's rewrite our equation, and everywhere we see an x, we're substituting that 2 in. So I'll have 4 times 2 plus 9 minus 8 times 2 equals 5 times 2 minus 8 minus 3 times 2 plus 5. So on our left side, 4 times 2 is 8 plus 9 minus 8 times 2 is 16. On the right side, 5 times 2 is 10 minus 8. 3 times 2 is 6. Plus 5, so now I'll just go left to right. 8 plus 9 is 17. 17 minus 16 is 1. 10 minus 8 is 2. 2 minus 6 is negative 4. So I'll write that down here. Negative 4 plus 5 is going to be 1. So we get 1 equals 1. Our solution checks. Our answer is going to be 2. All right. I want to do one more check with the fraction. I realized I didn't do a check with the fractional coefficient, so I just want to do that because people can have a difficult time working with a fraction. So let's just do one more check. I want to make sure you guys understand how to check a coefficient when your coefficient's a fraction. So let's just do that as well, okay? All right, so for number 5, we've got 2/3 x equals 8, and our solution for x was 12. So it's like every other check, we're going to take that 12, put it in for x. So we can write this as 2/3 times 12 equals 8. And just to make our multiplication make a little bit more sense, let's put that 12 over 1, right? So we know that we're multiplying straight across, numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. All right, so 2 times 12 is 24. 3 times 1 is 3. And we get 8 on the right side. And any fraction is division, so I get 24 divided by 3. Well, what's 24 divided by 3? It's going to give me 8. So I get 8 equals 8. So my solution checks. And my answer is 12. Okay? All right, so this is a bit of a long video, but we went through a good amount of information. A number of equations, different types of equations, solving and then checking. So I hope you guys like this video. I included links through this video to some more detailed explanations in terms of how to solve addition, subtraction, multi-step, and multi-step and grouping symbols equations. So you can check those videos out if you're having difficulty. And if you guys like this video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Again, I hope these videos are helping you guys out. First Coast Math Clinic.